You wake before dawn, and the first thing you do is pray. Not because you are pious, but because you know that by the end of this day, you will have touched at least 20 people who are dying of the plague. And statistically, you will be dead within a month. You are a plague doctor in London in the summer of 1665, and you are about to put on the most terrifying costume in human history. Not to scare anyone, but to try, desperately, to stay alive. The outfit is laid out on the table. A long black coat, waxed and heavy, that reaches to your ankles. Thick leather gloves, a wide-brimmed hat, and the mask. The mask that will make you look like a creature from a nightmare. It has a beak, a long, curved beak, 6 inches from your face, stuffed with rose petals, camphor, cloves, and myrrh. The theory is simple. The plague travels through bad air, through miasma, through the stench of death. If you can filter that air with sweet-smelling herbs, you will not get sick. This theory is completely wrong. But you do not know that. No one does. And so you tie the leather straps behind your head, and you become the bird of death.
Here is what most people do not understand about plague doctors. They were not heroes. They were not the best physicians in London. They were the leftovers. When the plague arrived in the spring of 1665, the real doctors, the ones with money and reputation and royal patience, did exactly what their wealthy clients did. They fled. They packed their bags and rode out of the city as fast as their horses could carry them. The ones who stayed were the desperate, the young, the second-rate, and the broke. Men who had no other options, men who were hired by the parish councils to do a job that everyone knew was a death sentence, and the pay was good because it had to be. London in 1665 is a city of nearly 500,000 people crammed into a space barely larger than a few square miles. The streets are narrow and filthy. Open drains run down the center, thick with sewage and animal waste. The cobblestones are slick with mud and worse. The air is choked with smoke from 15,000 coal fires. There is no sanitation, no running water. Rats are everywhere, and on those rats are fleas. And in those fleas is a bacterium called Yersinia pestis, and that bacterium is about to kill 1 in every 4 people in this city. The plague does not arrive all at once. It starts quietly. A few deaths here and there in the poorest parishes outside the city walls. The official record keepers, the ones who compile the weekly bills of mortality, note the numbers but do not panic. Plague is always present in London. It flares up every few years. This will pass, but then the numbers start to climb. 10 deaths 1 week, 20 the next, 50, 100. And then, in June, the diarist Samuel Pepys writes the words that will echo through history. This day, much against my will, I did in Drury Lane see 2 or 3 houses marked with a red cross upon the doors, and Lord have mercy upon us, writ there. The Red Cross. That is how you know a house is infected. The authorities have a system. When someone in a household falls sick with the plague, the entire house is shut up, locked from the outside. A red cross, 1 foot tall, is painted on the door. Beneath it, the words, Lord have mercy upon us. A watchman is posted outside to make sure no one escapes. The family inside, sick and healthy alike, are trapped together for 40 days. Food is passed through a window. Chamber pots are emptied into the street. And if the sick die, the healthy are still locked inside with the corpses. The logic is brutal but clear. Contain the infection. Sacrifice the few to save the many. It does not work. The plague spreads anyway. Now, imagine you are standing in front of one of those doors. It is early morning. The street is empty. Most of the shops are closed. Most of the people who could afford to leave have already left. The city feels like a ghost town. You can hear your own footsteps echoing off the buildings. You knock. A voice from inside, weak and frightened, tells you to come in. You push the door open and the smell hits you like a fist. It is the smell of sickness, of vomit and sweat and excrement and something else, something sweet and rotten, the smell of flesh beginning to die. The room is dark. The windows are shuttered because someone has heard that sunlight spreads the disease. A woman is lying on a straw mattress in the corner. Her husband is beside her, holding her hand. There are 2 children, maybe 6 and 8 years old, sitting against the wall, silent and wide-eyed. The woman is burning with fever. Her face is pale, her lips are cracked, and under her left arm, visible through the torn fabric of her shift, is a swelling the size of an apple, black, hard, throbbing, a bubo, the signature of the plague. You kneel beside her. You do not touch her with your hands. You use the cane. Every plague doctor carries a wooden cane, not as a symbol of authority, though it is that too, but as a tool. You use it to lift the fabric, to prod the swelling, to keep your distance. The woman moans. The bubo is taut and shiny, filled with pus and blood and bacteria. The medical theory of the time says that the body is governed by 4 humors: blood, phlegm, black bile, yellow bile. When these humors are out of balance, sickness occurs. The bubo is a concentration of bad humor. It must be drained. You take out the lancet. It is a small, sharp blade, and you have heated it over a candle flame because someone once told you that heat purifies. You press the tip against the bubo. The woman screams. Her husband looks away. You push harder. The skin splits. A thick, dark fluid pours out, staining the straw beneath her. The smell is indescribable. You pack the wound with a poultice made from crushed herbs and bread soaked in vinegar. It will do nothing, but it is all you have. Next comes the bloodletting. You take a phleem, a small blade designed to open a vein, and you cut into the woman's arm. Blood flows into a bowl. The idea is to release the corrupted blood, to let the bad humors escape. In reality, you are weakening a body that is already fighting for its life. But you do not know that. You are following the best medical knowledge of your time, and your time is wrong. You move to the next house, and the next, and the next. By midday, you have visited a dozen homes. You have lanced buboes. You have bled patients. You have written down names for the parish records. You have listened to people beg you to save them, and you have watched people die, because that is what happens. Most of them die. The survival rate for bubonic plague, if you develop the buboes, is maybe 30%. For pneumonic plague, the kind that attacks the lungs and spreads through the air, it is close to 0. The worst part is not the sickness, it is the isolation. Families are torn apart. Neighbors refuse to help each other. The bonds that hold a community together dissolve in the face of terror. Pepys writes in October, "Lord, how empty the streets are and melancholy. The city that was once loud and crowded and alive is now silent. Grass is growing in the streets because there is no one to walk on it. Shops are boarded up. Churches are empty. The only sound is the ringing of bells. Church bells tolling for the dead, and the rattle of the death carts. At night, the death carts come through, men with handkerchiefs tied over their faces, ringing a bell and calling out, 'Bring out your dead.' Bodies are carried out of houses and tossed into the cart like sacks of grain. The carts take them to the plague pits, mass graves dug in fields outside the city. The bodies are stacked in layers, covered with lime, and buried. There is no ceremony, no priest, no time. In the peak week of September, over 7,000 people die. 7,000 in 1 week, in one city, and you, the plague doctor, are in the middle of it. Every day you walk through streets lined with red crosses. Every day you breathe air thick with smoke from the fires that people burn in the streets, thinking it will purify the atmosphere. Every day you come home and strip off the heavy leather coat and the gloves and the mask, and you scrub your hands with vinegar, and you wonder if today was the day you were infected. Because the incubation period is only a few days. If you touched the wrong surface, if a flea bit you through a gap in your glove, If you breathed in a droplet from a coughing patient, you will know soon enough. Here is the terrible irony. The most iconic part of your costume, the beaked mask, is almost useless. The plague is not spread by bad air. It is spread by fleas, by the bites of infected fleas that live on rats. The mask does nothing to stop that. But the rest of the costume, the long coat, the gloves, the boots, those actually help. They create a barrier between you and the fleas. They are harder to bite through. They can be wiped clean. You are accidentally protecting yourself in the right way for the wrong reason. But even that is not enough. Because you are surrounded by infection, you are wading through it. And eventually, the odds catch up. Most plague doctors do not last long. Weeks, maybe a few months if they are lucky. Some die of the plague. Some flee when the horror becomes too much. Some simply disappear, their names added to the bills of mortality alongside the thousands of others. There are no statues built for plague doctors, no songs sung in their honor. They are remembered, if they are remembered at all, as figures of dread, the bird-masked men who came when hope was already gone. By the time the plague burns itself out in late 1666, London has lost a quarter of its population. 100,000 people. The city is transformed. Entire streets are empty. Entire families are gone. The economy has collapsed. The social order has been shaken. And in the minds of the survivors, the image of the plague doctor, the man in the black coat and the beaked mask, is seared into memory. Not as a healer, but as a symbol. A reminder of the time when death walked the streets in daylight and no one, not even the doctors, could stop it. And here is what you need to understand. The plague doctor knew this. He knew that the treatments did not work. He knew that most of his patients would die. He knew that he, too, would probably die. And he put on the mask anyway, not because he believed he could save everyone, but because someone had to try. Someone had to walk into those houses marked with the Red Cross. Someone had to hold the hand of the dying and tell them they were not alone. It was a job born of desperation, performed in terror, and it ended, almost always, in death. It was, without exaggeration, the worst job in history. And yet, when the call came, some men answered.